Welcome to this VOD, in which we're going to take a look at managing CCMP user security. First, we will have a look at some of the basic concepts in CCMP security. Then, we'll demonstrate some of those concepts in use. CCMP has a highly flexible and granular security model which is managed using the Security Manager tool. CCMP security can be configured to allow a user to access only those functions and resources which are necessary for them to do their job. In CCMP, resources such as agents and skill groups are stored in folders. CCMP's built-in security model determines which of those folders a user can see and what operations they can perform on the resources stored within them. The basic building blocks of the security model are users, tasks, and folders. For example, we could give the user Jim the Browse Dimensions task on the Sales folder, meaning that he could browse resources within that folder. This is useful, but setting each individual task for every user on all of the folders in a large tree would be a huge task. So CCMP collects multiple tasks together into a single role. There are pre-configured out-of-the-box roles, and you can also create your own to meet the specific needs of the business. Just as you can collect tasks together into a role, you can also collect users together into a group. These groups can in turn be members of other groups. We can then assign roles to the group rather than the individual users themselves. As we've seen, permissions are applied at a folder level. Once again, for a complex folder structure, this could be a time-consuming task if we needed to repeat this for each folder in our tree. CCMP helps us here by allowing folders to inherit permissions from those higher up in the tree. We call the folder that defines a child's security a policy root. Folders that need different security permissions from their parent folder must have inheritance removed, so that they themselves become a policy root. When this is done, no permissions are removed, as the previously inherited permissions are applied explicitly to the child folder. When a new policy root folder is created by breaking inheritance, default user groups are created in that folder, which have the basic, supervisor, and advanced role there. In Security Manager, you can see when a folder is inheriting permissions as the security settings are grayed out and the Inherit Permissions checkbox is selected. We've already seen that security can be granted at a folder level, but some permissions don't apply just in a folder context. Instead, they apply across the whole application. These are called global tasks. An example of this is accessing the Security Manager tool itself. Before we take a look at CCMP security in action, let's just run through the steps involved in creating a security model from scratch. First, decide how you want to partition access to CCMP. Which users need access to which resources, and what operations do they need to be able to perform on those resources? Identify and create any new roles that you will need over and above those which are there out of the box. Construct a folder tree to hold your resources. Determine which folders will inherit security and which will need their own security settings. Then, create your users and groups and assign permissions. You can either move resources manually into folders using System Manager, or you can use the CCMP prefix management functionality to do it automatically. Now let's take a look at some of those security concepts in action. We'll log in as an administrator, so we have complete access. The Security Manager tool allows us to see which users and groups have a particular role on a given folder. We can also see which users are located in the folder and optionally select them and edit their security settings. As well as users, we can see which groups are located in the folder. We can also access users through the User Manager tool. Clicking on a user either in Security Manager or User Manager will take you to their details page. Here we can edit their details, see which groups they belong to, and reset their password. The Access menu item will show us all the folder-based permissions that the user currently has. The Role Manager tool is where we can edit existing roles and create new ones for folder-based security. The Global Security Manager allows us to do the same for global roles. With global roles, users are made a member of the role. Let's look at a simple example of creating a user and granting them permissions through group membership. We're going to create an advanced user in the Customer Service folder. Checking the Advanced Mode checkbox means that our user will have access to the Advanced interface rather than the Basic Mode interface. Our user has been created, but currently doesn't have any permissions. The Advanced Users group in the Customer Service folder has the Advanced role on that folder. Adding our user to that group will automatically give them the same permissions. Let's check that by logging in as the new user. We can see that our user has access to the Advanced interface and that they can see the Customer Service folder. Notice that they can also see the Shared folder. If we take a look at the user's access, we can see that they have permissions on folders other than Customer Service, and roles other than the Advanced role, which is the only role that we gave them. The reason for this is that every user is by default a member of the Everyone group. It's the Everyone group that has these permissions on the Shared folder. One more thing to show here. When we checked the Advanced option during the creation of the user, they were automatically made a member of this System Advanced Global role. It's this role which grants access to the Advanced interface. Let's look at a typical use case, creating a supervisor that will have access through the Basic Mode interface to manage only the agents in their own team. We're going to create a supervisor for the sales team. The agent resources, as well as the team itself and the skill group that we would like our user to manage, are located in the sales folder as well. To show the whole process end-to-end, we'll start with the agent creation in UCCE using CCMP. We'll create a person record at the same time. we're going to make our agent a primary supervisor for the sales team. Now our agent exists in UCCE, the next step is to create a CCMP user, which is linked to that agent. We can do this from the Portal tab on the corresponding person record for our agent. Linking the agent in UCCE to a CCMP user in this way will restrict the user to managing only their own team in the Agent Team Manager and Skill Group Manager basic mode tools. Now we've created an agent in UCCE with an associated person record and a CCMP user that is linked to that person record. We can give our CCMP user supervisor permissions in the sales folder by adding them to the supervisor group there. Now our supervisor user has all the permissions they need to access the basic mode interface to manage the sales team agents and reskill them to skill groups located in the sales folder. Now let's look at extending the folder structure by adding a subfolder under Sales called Commercial. We'll also put a new skill group in the folder. By default, our new folder is inheriting its permissions from the Sales folder. This means that without making any security changes, our user can reskill to the new skill group. If we don't want our user to be able to access the new folder and skill group, we can use Security Manager to remove the inherited permissions. When we do this, the previously inherited permissions will be granted explicitly on the folder, so we'll need to remove them. Now we can see that our supervisor no longer has access to the commercial skill group. Reinstating inheritance is just as easy. Let's extend our model further by giving our user access to reskill their agents into a skill group located in the Customer Service folder. Rather than give them membership of the Supervisors group, which would give them the supervisor role on that folder, we're going to restrict their permissions. Here, we've created a new role, which will allow them to only see the folder and the dimensions or resources in it, as well as being able to manage their memberships, such as skill group or team memberships. We could create a group with this role on the Customer Service folder and add our user to that. Instead, for the purposes of demonstration, we're just going to grant the permission explicitly to the user. To do this, we simply select the user in Security Manager and edit their permissions. We choose the folder where we would like to add a permission and choose the specific role we would like to give them. If we want to, we can make multiple permission changes on multiple folders at this point. Now, our user can reskill to the Customer Service skill group. As they only have Manage Dimension memberships permission, they won't be able to use the GoTo links to get access to the skill group and change its properties. For more information on managing CCMP security, please refer to the CCMP Security Guide documentation on cisco.com.